I knew it. I knew from the first second that that second red streak appeared in the test. My body was already screaming before the confirmation. My breasts were sensitive, my sleep too heavy, and my heart was in chaos. But even with the world spinning around me, I could only think of one thing. How will he react? It wasn't a planned baby. We barely had 2 years of relationship and shared an apartment borrowed from his aunt. I was still trying to finish my nursing school, and he was caught between his own dreams and the convenience of a stable courtship. But nothing in life prepared me for his reaction. Nothing. When I showed him the test, he didn't say anything. Not a word. He only looked at me with those empty eyes, as if I had confessed to a crime. And instead of hugging me or even discussing the future, he just got up, went to the bathroom, and stayed there. Locked. 17 minutes and 43 seconds. I counted. That night, he didn't sleep in bed. He lay on the couch. He said he needed to think. And there, for the first time, I felt what it was like to carry a child and be treated as if I had committed a betrayal. I curled up, lying on my side, with my hand on my still flat belly. "It's going to be okay, my love," I whispered to an embryo that didn't even have a heart formed. But I already knew. From then on, it was me and you, alone. The first time I heard my baby's heart, it was as if someone had turned on a light inside me. A mismatched, small, hurried drum, as if to say, "Hey, I'm here. Listen to me." And I listened. With his eyes watering, with his hand shaking, and his cell phone in the other, filming, because he wasn't there. He didn't want to go. The night before, he had said he was tired, as if my uterus was on vacation and not in the process of creating a life. I insisted. He said it was important, that it was our son's first sound, that I wanted to share it with him. And he just sighed, as if my joy was a nuisance. "Record it later," was all he replied. And I recorded it. Not by him, but for me. Because even alone in that cold room of the clinic, I knew that sound would save me on the darkest days. But I still had no idea how many of those days would come, and how much they would hurt. His mother learned of the pregnancy 3 weeks later. He said, at a Sunday lunch, that I was not invited. Then she told me that she didn't think it was a good idea, that baby now would only get in the way. I didn't hear it from her mouth. She never gave me that right. But I felt it in the attitudes. In silence. In the corner look, when, months later, I had to go to their house. There I understood. I was the mistake that no one wanted to admit. The belly that everyone preferred to hide. In the family WhatsApp group, where I was previously called beautiful daughter-in-law, now I was just a mute number. No congratulations, no questions, no affection, just a silence that screamed, "You weren't part of the plan." The irony is that my baby was growing up, and with me, contempt. I began to notice how he avoided touching me, as if my pregnancy was contagious. At night, we slept on our backs. During the day, he barely looked me in the eye. He only said what was necessary. And every time I said, "We need to talk about childbirth," he would run away. He made up an excuse. He changed the subject. Or he just ignored me completely. One afternoon, at the end of the 4th month, I accidentally dropped the ultrasound on the table. It was the clearest image of the baby so far. The little profile of the face, the bent arm, the stretched leg. I put it there hoping perhaps for a smile. A tear, any emotion. He looked for less than 2 seconds, said cool, and went back to his cell phone. Legal. The life growing inside of me was just cool to the man who put me in this situation and now behaved as if I had been impregnated by the wind. I began to hide my joy. She kept the clothes she bought hidden in the back of her wardrobe. He no longer counted on the consultations. He didn't ask for company. I went alone, came back alone, and cried in the elevator back. My belly grew, and with it, a hole inside me. A silence that did not stop growing as well. I started to feel pain in my back, legs, kidneys. The nausea returned even in the 2nd trimester. My doctor said it was emotional, that the body feels when the soul is mistreated. And he was right. My body screamed, but no one listened. Nobody wanted to hear it. After all, a pregnant woman who cries is exaggerated. Pregnant woman who complains is looking for attention. Pregnant woman who suffers did wear, but no one asked if I ate properly, if he slept well, if he needed help. I was a vessel, a weight, a problem in the form of a woman with an obvious belly. One night, trying to make one last gesture of approach, I asked, "Can you talk to the baby? Say something to him. He already hears your voice." He laughed. He said, "Say what? He hasn't even been born yet, and I don't even know if it's mine." That sentence broke me. It tore from the inside. And there, in that bed where we slept like two strangers, I understood. He didn't see me anymore. I didn't see myself as a woman. I didn't see myself as a mother. And worse, he did not see his own son as part of himself. The pain of that night was not physical. It was a pain that echoes in silence, a pain that does not appear in the exams, a pain that carries guilt, shame, and the feeling of being wrong for simply existing. I thought about leaving that very night, but I looked at my belly. I felt a slight kick. It was as if the baby said, "Stay. I still need you." And I stayed. Because as much as no one called me mom, I was gone. Even in silence, even alone, even though she is treated as a shame. When I entered the 7th month, I thought something would change. Maybe he would finally accept it. Maybe the penny dropped, and he looked at me as the woman who was giving life to his son. But instead, he looked at me as if I had stolen his own youth, as if my belly was a punishment for a mistake he refused to own. At that time, I no longer recognized myself in the mirror. My feet were swollen, my dark circles were screaming, and my spine felt like it was about to snap in half. But what hurt the most was the emptiness, the silence of the house, the lack of plans, the total absence of affection. The contempt was no longer disguised. It was declared. I saw friends having baby showers, getting diapers, clothes, hair strokes. I saw exciting videos on Instagram of husbands assembling the crib, painting the room, kissing their wives' bellies. And me? I dragged boxes alone. I assembled the crib with the wrench in my left hand and the pain in my back making me scream inside. I asked him if he wanted to make a revelation tea. He replied, "For what? There is no one to invite." And he continued to play on his cell phone. It was on that day that I understood. He was not just absent, he was cruel. When I told my mother that he didn't want a baby shower, she offered to do it. But I refused. I didn't want her to see what I've become. I didn't want her to see the woman who was letting me turn around. A shadow, a shell, an echo. I had already lost so much. The laughter, the brilliance, even the voice. Because I spoke and was not heard. I explained, asked, begged, but nothing seemed to cross that wall he had built between us. And that was it. A wall. A castle of contempt that he reinforced every day with bricks of coldness. One afternoon, he returned home with a grocery bag. I perked up for a second. Had he bought something for the baby? A diaper? A jumpsuit? A measly pack of wet wipes? But no, it was beer. 3 cans, and a chocolate bar. For him. I looked, without saying anything, and that's when he blurted out, "You're very sensitive. Pregnancy is not a disease." That sentence slapped me inside. I was sleeping sitting up because lying down gave me heartburn. I vomited when brushing my teeth. I felt pain in my joints. I had training contractions that made me stop in the middle of the street. But it was not a disease. That night, after another argument about the crib, because he said baby sleeps anywhere, I went to the room and locked the door. I lay on my side, and there, in that thick silence, I felt a strong kick. Different. As if my son said, "Wake up, Mom. That's not love." And that shook me. For the first time in months, I cried not of pain, but of decision. It was as if something in me had woken up, something that stayed asleep out of fear, convenience, tiredness. But now it was there, alive, breathing, fighting. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I made coffee, grabbed a piece of paper, and started writing down everything I needed. Diapers, tub, RN clothes, bottle, handkerchief, swaddle, thermometer. I looked at the list with the eyes of a warrior. I was going to do everything myself, because if it was to be an unaccompanied mother, let it be with honor. I took an Uber and went downtown. With the little I had saved, which was almost nothing, I bought the essentials. And when I came back, with the heavy bags, he didn't even ask where I had gone. I just said, "Did you shop with my money again?" That sentence sealed it. There was no more room for attempts. I could endure the silence, the coldness, the forgetfulness. But the humiliation, that one, no more. And then I started to put my things away. Not in big boxes, in discreet bags, because I wasn't going to announce my departure. I was going to leave as I entered, with dignity, and take with me what he will never have, the courage to be human. That night, as he snored on the couch, I stood watching the house. Each corner carried a trauma. The chair where I cried in silence, the wall where I hit my head in frustration, the kitchen where I tried to cook for two and ate alone, the bathroom where I knelt in nausea, waiting for a hand that never came. But now there was something bigger inside me than all that beat for two, and a strength that even I didn't know I had. And then I whispered, "It's just a little bit, my love. When you're born, we start over, far from here, away from them." And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. The 9th month arrived like a sultry storm. Every movement was a fight against gravity. My whole body hurt. The false contractions came every night, and with them, a terror. What if it's today? And if I go to the hospital, and no one is with me? I had already decided, when the baby was born, I would leave that house. I was leaving. I was going to start over. But I wanted somehow for him to at least see it, that he would look at the child and understand what he lost. But no, he was still distant. The house was cold. My son's father was an empty presence with the smell of cigarettes and contempt. In the week before the birth, he disappeared for 2 days. He said he went to a friend's house. He didn't even warn you. He didn't even ask if I was okay. I spent both nights with my hand on my belly, trying to calm the baby, who seemed to toss and turn with anxiety. I spoke softly. "It's not long, my love. Mommy will get you out of here." The following Saturday morning, I felt a different pain. It wasn't like the others. It was deep, rhythmic, growing in waves. I stood, waiting to pass. But it did not pass. It started to come more often. I took a deep breath, took my suitcase, which was already ready, and went to the living room. He was there, playing video games, as if I wasn't there. "It started," I said. He didn't even take his eyes off the screen. "What did it start?" He replied disdainfully. "Labor. I'm going to the hospital." He paused the game. He looked at me. And he said, in the coldest voice I have ever heard, "Do you want me to go along?" It wasn't a question. It was a test. A provocation. As if to say, "Do you still want to pretend that I care?" I took a deep breath, and for the first time, I answered with the same coldness, "No." I called an app car, alone. I entered with the suitcase and the pain pulsing between my legs. The driver looked at me in the rearview mirror, tense, and asked if I was okay. And I replied, "I'm better than I've been in months." When I arrived at the hospital, the contractions were every 4 minutes. The nurses ran with me through the corridors. I tried to control the crying, but it wasn't just physical pain. It was the weight of months of abandonment exploding along with the broken water. In the delivery room, surrounded by strange faces, I wished for someone holding my hand. My mother, maybe. A friend. Anyone. But there was no one. And yet, I didn't feel weak. I felt alive. Strong. As if all that made me give birth not only to a child, but a new version of me. It was ours. Screamed, fought. I blew it up. And when the first cry echoed, I cried together. Because it wasn't just him who was born. It was me too. The doctor asked, "Do you want us to call Dad?" I shook my head. And he said, "He's already busy, playing video games." I held my baby in my arms. It was a boy, hairy, pink skin, eyes closed as if he already knew everything. And I looked at it like it was the whole universe. And I promised, we will never beg for love again. That night, in the maternity room, I looked at my cell phone. No link, no message from him, no questions. I posted a photo of the baby's little hand with the caption, "He arrived, we're fine." 3 hours later, he replied, "Okay. Is that it?" "Okay." 3 letters. To sum up everything he wasn't, all that he will never be. And there, with my son in my arms and my heart in ruins rebuilding every piece, I was sure I didn't need any man to be complete, because now I was a mother, and that was enough for me. The day of discharge arrived with sunshine, a sky so clear that it seemed to mock all the gray I had experienced until then. The nurse came into the room and said, "You're going home today, Mommy." But that was no longer my home. I knew it. And so did she. I changed the baby calmly. I dressed it with the clothes I bought hidden in the 4th month, a yellow jumpsuit with clouds. I put on the blue crochet slipper I got from an unknown lady at the clinic's front desk, the only person who looked me in the eye and said, "You're going to be a good mom, I feel it." That was enough for me. I called a taxi. I took the baby in my arms. I didn't send a message. I didn't warn you. I just went. With the bag, the baby, and the firm heart. Arriving at the apartment, he opened the door with a face as if he was waiting for someone else. He had a beer in his hand. He was barefoot. The same sweatshirt as 3 days before. And that expression of, "I don't care." "Are you back yet?" he asked, as if I had gone to the market. I went into silence. I went straight to the bedroom. I started to pick up my things. Not everything, just the essentials. Mine and the baby's clothes. Documents. The little clothes. The bottle. The birth certificate. The soul that was already with me. "Where are you going?" he asked, leaning against the door with the beer still in his hand. "To a place where my son is welcome." He laughed, as I always did when I wanted to reduce my pain. "You won't take it. It will end up coming back." And that's when I smiled. A light smile. Free. Because that was the last time anyone tried to arrest me out of fear. And it failed. Maybe. But if I come back, she will be rich, happy, and with twice as much courage. And even then, never again for you. I left there without looking back. I took a rented room with a lady from the group of single mothers. The owner of the house, Dona Yolanda, welcomed me with a hug, a glass of juice, and a look that said more than 1,000 words. "You did the right thing." And in that small room, with flowery wallpaper and the smell of lavender, I lay down with my baby and slept, for the first time in a long time, without fear. No contempt, no murderous silence. I woke up with him crying. I breasted, sang. And for the first time, I felt real love. A love that requires nothing. That doesn't measure. That doesn't disappear when the belly grows. I began to write down in a notebook everything he would never know. How it was generated, what we endured, what we overcame. Not to create a grudge, but so that one day, if he asks me, I will have the truth. And it doesn't hurt anymore. I got a remote job, typist. The accounts were tight, but it was enough. And more importantly, I was alive, with meaning, with purpose, and with a love that even small already taught me more than any man. A month later, he sent a message. "Can we talk?" Deleted. Because with those who despised me pregnant, I don't talk. I teach. With silence. With absence. With my happiness. Time passed like a whirlwind of change. Months that seemed like years. Long days. Eternal nights. But every second strengthened me. Every sleepless night, every cry, every toothless smile, every little hand grabbed to my finger reminded me, I did it. My baby grew up healthy, smart. He learned to crawl among stacked books and cloths spread on the floor, and I relearned how to be a woman, with dignity. I started giving private lessons online. I became a reference in a group of mothers on Instagram. They started calling me strong, inspiring, warrior. Words that once seemed distant now fit me perfectly. And it was there that life decided to close the cycle with the most beautiful irony I have ever seen. I was in the center, walking with my baby's stroller, on a sunny afternoon. He wore that navy blue jumpsuit with stars that Dona Yolanda gave me. I stopped in front of a shop window, a new children's clothing store. I was looking distractedly at a little outfit when I heard, "Is that him?" I turned around slowly. And there he was, the father of my child, with the same sweatshirt, now more shabby, a half cigarette between his fingers, and that look. Missing. He looked at me, but it was as if he looked into a mirror that screamed, "You lost. He's just like me," he said, trying to smile, but it wasn't a smile. It was guilt in disguise. I didn't answer. I bent down, adjusted the baby's blanket, and held his little hand. And it was he, my son, who answered, without knowing, without speaking, with a sweet, firm look, straight at him. A clean look, but strange. As if to say, "I don't know you." And that hurt him. "Are you okay?" he ventured. Now I am, I replied, without arrogance, just truth. He tried to touch the baby, but I took a step back, by instinct, for protection. I wanted be part of it. If you can, I took a deep breath. So many possible answers, so many accumulated sorrows. But I just said, you had the chance to be a father at the most important moment. You chose not to be. Now he has someone who loves him. There's no need for confusion. He was silent. For the first time, no jokes, no cynicism, only the weight of what he did not do, of what will never be. Forgive me, he said quietly. And that's when I understood. I had already forgiven. Because forgiving is not accepting back. It's to stop charging. I forgive you. But that doesn't change anything. And I turned my back. As I pushed the cart, I felt a lightness that I never imagined. Because there, on that sidewalk, I left not only one man. I left the contempt, the humiliation, the shame. And I walked towards what I was now. A whole mother. Free. Unshakable. I got home, took a selfie with my son, laughing. I posted it with the caption, "Being a single mother is not weakness. It's proof that when the world turns its back, self-love pushes the cart." And I slept with my soul in peace.